Dick, but I was going to say, I was hoping I was going to go up. But
Ready on the right, ready on the left. Call the meeting to order. American Canyon Fire Protection District Board meeting for April 26, 2022. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph,
Here.
Board Member Oro,
Here.
Board Member Washington,
Here.
Vice Chair Abudamos,
Is excused.
and Chairman Garcia.
Here. Now we'll move on to report on closed session, confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross?
Mr. Chairman, board members, members of the public, the board convened in open session at 5:45 p.m. to address the matters agendized for closed session. After ascertaining there were no public comment, you adjourned to closed session where it was indicated that a matter had arisen within 72 hours requiring action. So by a unanimous vote 4-0, your board added an additional matter for closed session consideration, a personnel matter with regard to the position of fire chief pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 and parent small b. With respect to both items, I will provide a written report upon return from closed session consistent with Government Code Section 54957.1. The closed session concluded at 6:26 p.m. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council or district board members? Hearing none? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll move on with our agenda now. Gives us great pleasure now to move on to proclamations and presentation and present a certificate of appreciation to firefighter Euclid Abalos. Want to come forward, please? Board, please rise. Certificate of appreciation. The certificate is awarded to Euclid Abalos in recognition of 5 years of valuable service with the American Canyon Fire Protection District. Firefighter Abalos. Thank you. Any comments now or for Chief Cahill? Please come to the podium. Board can be seated.
Good evening, board and members of the department and the Avalos family. First of all, I want to tell you how proud I am to be able to be here tonight to present EJ with his 5-year pin. To give you a little update in terms of just a background on this gentleman, his wife is here, Deborah, with the phone. Now she's making me nervous because she's videotaping me. And his children, Alexis and Aiden. EJ, for folks who don't know it, he came to us after a 20-year career in the Air Force. He's a resident of American Canyon, became a reserve firefighter with us, looking to give back to the community. And I have to say that my predecessor, Chief Weeks, one of the really, really good things that he did while he was here, besides bringing the paramedic program into the community, was he found this gentleman here and talked him into taking a job with the district as a firefighter. He is one of our stars. And he's involved with, since he's been hired, he's been here 5 years. In the 5 years he's been here, he's on our USAR team. He was a Fire Explorer advisor during our Fire Explorer program, which is starting back up again here soon. He's been an acting captain for how long now? A year and a half, yes. So think about that, 5 years and for a year and a half. So 3.5 years after he came to us, he became an acting captain. He comes with a lot of experience given his career in the Air Force, and we appreciate that, and it shows in his ability to take that position. He's been an association member for the Firefighter Association here. He's a Solano Napa Firefighter Foundation board member. One of his assignments within the district is he's a facilities manager for the district. And the best part, on his off-duty days, okay, he's worked for the Firefighter Candidate Agility Testing Program in the state. He's been a Napa College EMT instructor, and the best part is he's on the ground crew at San Francisco Giants at Oracle Park.
All right.
Okay? And so when you're watching the games, look for EJ out there pushing a rake around or, pulling a tarp across the infield. Anyway, it's with great pleasure that we present him with this 5-year pin tonight.
All right. Thank you.
You can say something.
Yeah, it's your
Just a couple words. Just want to say thank you to the board, fire board, the fire district, the chiefs, my fellow coworkers, and last but not least, my family. 5 years into this, a lot of work, a lot of time, and has been dedicated to the fire district, and I couldn't do it without my family here. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. A proud moment for all of us. And we do appreciate your dedication and service to American Canyon and your esprit de corps for the department you work with. I think we'll move on now with our agenda. Any public comment received on items not on the agenda?
No, Chairman.
Okay, none received. We'll close public comment at this time then. Move on to agenda changes. Any agenda changes? Our consent calendar is the March 29, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar if there are no agenda changes?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Second. Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph?
Yes.
Board Member Oro?
Yes.
Board Member Washington?
Yes.
Chairman Garcia?
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to public hearing, there are none this evening. Moving on to our business. Item 4, teleconference/video conference or in-person meetings of legislative bodies of the American Canyon Fire Protection District for the period May 1, 2022 through May 31, 2022, pursuant to Government Brown Act provision. We need a discussion needed on this, council, or district board members? Chief Hale, any comment?
If I could just make a short presentation with respect to this item. Since the pandemic started, we've been meeting like most all other governmental entities, and certainly the ones here in American Canyon, on Zoom teleconferencing. We have now have the opportunity to go back to in-person meetings and hybrid type meetings. The city has chosen to do a hybrid type of meeting, which they allow folks to be here in attendance and also to be on Zoom. Tonight we're doing that. I think that I'd like to get some direction from the board tonight, because I think we're not the city, and our involvement in terms of public presentations and public input into the district is more limited, frankly, than what the city experiences. There are a couple of things that come up with respect to this. To be able to do this hybrid presentation, as much as it provides amazing opportunity for the public to sit in their in their living room or their dining room table and interact with the board and with staff, it also has some complications for the fire district. Specifically, it takes both our administrative personnel, Martha and Laura, to be here to run the meeting. Okay? That also involves having DNI and Napa Television folks here to do their work, and frankly, the district didn't budget for that, and we don't have the staff to, frankly, manage that the way the city does. So I'm asking the board to consider that when you think about how we're going to do things into the future with respect to how we hold our meetings. And I'd like to hear where you're all at. I mean, I realize that we want to be as accessible and as transparent to the community. I think I totally believe in that myself. But we also, I think, need to look at this from the standpoint of what the fire district's bandwidth is to be able to do that and still meet the intent of the law, which is that we're required to have open meetings.
So what's the state of California say about that at this point?
Well, I'm going to refer to our counsel for that, but
Okay. Mr. Ross?
The amendment to the Brown Act was made to allow in-person meetings to continue with teleconferenced meetings. You could elect to pursue with just teleconferenced meetings, but if you do so, it's on a meeting-to-meeting basis, or basically a 30-day, you know, 30 plus 1, whatever the increment is, with respect to your next meeting. So you could continue to have virtual or Zoom meetings. So that's
what you're saying is the choice is optional. We can have one or the other.
You have an alternative,
Okay.
but you got to make the decision
Yeah.
on a periodic basis, and with the the regular meeting time preceding the meeting you want to have, either as joint or as Zoom. So if you want to, you know, you have the option. This is one of the reasons why this is a business is, you know, for your next meeting, if you want to have it to Zoom, then you can adopt this resolution with the direction that it not provide for the in-person alternative.
Okay.
if I could jump in on that, the other alternative is to have meetings in person like you did prior to COVID.
Joint meeting with city council.
No. Separate meetings as a board, but in person,
Yeah.
like
Without Zoom.
Yeah.
without Zoom.
Without Zoom.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So in effect, we have three choices. We could be totally in person, hybrid, as the city has chosen, or completely Zoom.
That's the way I understand it,
Right.
yes, sir.
And, you know, recognizing the additional cost with the hybrid scenario, I agree with you that transparency is critical, but a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer is also critical. So you don't have openness that costs you an arm and a leg, in a nutshell. So I'm kind of partial to let's have it in person, recognizing that if we do have a topic, I don't know what that might be, but if it's a topic that we can reasonably expect is going to bring in a big crowd, that we might want to say, hey, come up with the money to do it as a hybrid, notice it as such, that way we get maximum exposure. But a lot of times, you know, no disrespect to the fire district, but the intensity of your agendas are not as dramatic as the city's issues are, and so I think it may be appropriate to say, hey, we're in person, come on down, but we shouldn't necessarily incur the additional cost just to provide a level of service that conceivably no one is taking advantage of. So that's my long-rounded way of saying let's go for in-person with a hybrid option if necessary.
Just to reflect, if I may, on past meetings with the fire district, not well attended by the public, that I can recall. So in-person doesn't, actually, the outreach has something more to do with how we communicate that, I think, maybe, or just public interest. Not to say that the work's not important, that's just the response from the public. Zoom does offer that possibility for more participation or attendance. And frankly, as small as that is, that's significantly more than what we've had in the past. So I think probably a Zoom meeting, but we'll continue to try that for a while. But yeah, I appreciate your, Board Member Joseph, your fiduciary responsibility side of it. Yeah, it's expensive to do this. It's costly. We haven't budgeted for it. Something we should probably consider about doing if we want to continue this with budgeting for it. Maybe part of that process is understanding what the cost is in terms of dollar amount.
If I could jump in real quick, there's a, this is an unintended consequence of dividing the city council meetings and the board meeting, fire board meetings. And I'll be totally honest with you, something that I didn't consider at the time. But the fact is that when you were meeting with the city, contiguous to the city council meetings, that was all essentially lumped in to the cost associated with your meetings.
Oh.
As we've separated the two and tried to provide some delineation between the district board operations and the city council operations, this has come up. But it's also come up because of the fact that the city chose to do the hybrid type of meetings process, and not without a considerable amount of work and money and staff time to make it happen. And I think we all have learned. I think the city manager and administrative staff of the city have learned a lot about that in this process. But the fact of the matter is, we're there now, and I felt like we needed to get some direction from the board in terms of how you want to deal with that.
Okay. Board Member Washington?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Board Member. I think that's what you call down on here, Mr. Board Member.
Chairman. Sure.
Mr. Chair, there you go. Well, first off, this is my first fire district in-person meeting, so I'm just happy to see people in front of me. So
Mine too.
that's awesome. The hybrid piece, I think, is working out nicely, but I do agree with you that from a cost standpoint, that the Zoom would probably be more better for this board. However, if we have key issues like Board Member Joseph mentioned, perhaps we could do a joint meeting through the hybrid side to make sure that we have the attendance and the
Or just recognize there is an additional cost. You have to have 2 administrative people here. You probably have more D&I consultant costs. So, I mean, you could still have a hybrid fire district meeting. It's just every time you do that, it's going to cost more than if you just did it by Zoom or in person. That's the only big difference.
okay.
But
Well, yeah, I'm are we trying to do a straw vote today on what we prefer? Is that what you're looking for?
I think from our staff perspective, yes, that would be helpful. Sorry, looking around I know, I moved mine. That would be helpful, because one is we're working on budget prep for 22, 23. That's a big piece of what Martha is working on now. But also, we need to sit down and figure out what it's going to take to do this, once a month as for our board meetings, and that involves us having to contract with DNI or deal with a different contract with DNI because we're no longer doing it through the city, and Napa. Well, the television is a whole nother piece of that, and the city pays for that, so we're going to have to work out a different relationship with them too, a separate one. I mean, it's those kind of pieces that we're beginning to realize are there that we didn't see when the decision was made.
Yeah, and I guess my only other concern would be is that, when we start talking fire district, we want to educate and familiarize people with what's going on with the fire district, right? And if they can't see it or they don't have the ability to get online and kind of look like this evening, I think we do them a disservice. So I get the cost piece, and I know, Mark, you're gonna beat me up about the cost thing, but I just think that, you know, we have a great fire district. And the more we get some exposure to the residents, you know, we got measures that are coming up that, again, they can get educated a little bit better than just thinking this is just money coming out of our pockets on taxes, for instance. But they put faces to the name of the people who are involved. And I think that's what this city has a lot in common when it comes to, they put faces to the people who are serving them. And just like our faces, although we may not all be good looking, like the fire district guys, I just think that, you know, getting them in front of the public through social media, because we're pushing a lot of social media ways of communicating to the public and giving them that knowledge. So I mean, I'm pretty much ready to, you know, go with my colleagues here on a decision on it. But I just think that the benefits of having it on social media is positive for the district, although it does come with a cost.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot, frankly, I mean, as much as people complained about Zoom, I think we learned a lot about the fact that it provided, you know, access to us and to the community at a level, frankly, wasn't there. I mean, I wasn't here when you were meeting in person, but I know I've been to plenty of fire district board meetings in the past, and you know, the folks that are there are the firefighters, and you know, maybe one or two members of the you know, that live in the community, and otherwise, that's all it shows up for the board meetings. So,
We got some people out there. Look at the people.
yeah, thanks, Beth.
And Beth.
That's okay.
Evening, Beth. Okay. Board Member Oro.
I actually thought this was going to be a perfunctory item and really easy to get done, and it's a little bit more complicated than I thought. Listen, I can go either way. Listen, you know, the hybrid thing, if it's a little complicated, I'd probably prefer to go Zoom because I think it's easier for people to participate that way. I don't mind meeting in person either, although today would have been a good day to meet in Zooms considering I was late. So, you know, I guess it's really to the staff and to the board to the board members if they had a preference. You know, I can go either way, and I think the Zoom might go away when things more normalize, or is this forever here?
That's a good question to ask Mr. Ross. That exemption that's in the.
I thought it was May. Oh, the May 30th date, 31st date was just the monthly
It's a monthly
updates.
thing.
Yes.
But there's no recent legislation or executive order stating that it'll go away. They're just continuing this for a while.
That's correct.
I think the thing I like about our current arrangement, put it that way, is the distinct recognition in the fire district is separate from the city. And having two separate meetings, for me, represents that well. I do recall a time, and Councilmember Joseph may recall also, the fire district and council meetings were back-to-back on the same evening. So they would convene one, take care of that business, close a business on that one, then convene the other. So that might be a way of maintaining that distinction, if the board's interested.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. We're going to continue to have these weekly fourth Tuesdays of the month meetings. It's just whether we do them hybrid, whether we do them in person, or we do them by Zoom only.
I don't know what I was saying, it was on the same night.
Yeah, I know it was on the same night, but we're going to.
What they would do is they would convene for example, the fire district meeting, Tuesday night, it would come first,
Yeah, I know.
take care of that business, then adjourn that one, then convene the American Canyon City Council meeting. Might be a way of being able to draw more attention to it, if there's interest.
And that's certainly an option. I think we've decided, I guess, right before COVID, or during COVID, I guess, to segregate the meetings.
Yeah.
Partly to better delineate the fact that we are two separate legal entities. And I'm inclined to stick with that arrangement just because of that very same reason, just to delineate. So for me, it's either we're in person only, or in Zoom only, or consider how expensive it is to have the hybrid. like the city does. You know, it would be worthwhile to find out just how expensive that is, but, you know, I'm inclined to say let's go one way or the other. And unfortunately, I'm like Board Member Oro, I can be talked into either one because I don't have a strong feeling on either one. You know, having them in person is kind of nice, but having them on Zoom is incredibly easy and simple. And, you know, so I'm basically forthrightly being indecisive on this. I can go with anything that the rest of the group feels strongly about, and none of them feel strongly about it, so we're just
And
gonna
that's why I threw
dither.
it back to staff.
You know, I can go with
That's
in
a good
person.
I mean, how would the staff feel? How do you guys feel? Is it easier to do it, you know, just Zoom, or is it easier?
Not to put
for
you on the
guys?
spot.
You said I'm putting them on the spot?
Oh, yeah, put them on the spot.
Oh,
Not to.
I'm acknowledging that we're dithering, we should be able to put them on the spot
Okay,
in
look,
exchange.
I'm gonna-
Don't
I'm
put-
gonna- I'm
yeah,
gonna-
don't put Martha there, I get paid the big bucks. So here's the deal. If we were to do just in person, it would be the fire chief and the clerk, or Martha.
Yeah.
Laura would not be here unless it was a special presentation being made by her in her responsibilities in the department.
Yeah.
To do hybrid, it takes a minimum of 2 folks, plus David sitting in the back of the room there from DNI, and I'm not sure if there's folks downstairs or not, David, there are.
Coming from that television downstairs, the DNI, we do the hybrid support at no cost to either the city or the fire district. The cost is the fact that when we're doing this, we're not doing other things that may be of other strategic value to the district. It takes somewhere between 10 consulting hours to 20 a week for us to support
Okay.
hybrid meetings, depending on how many meetings you have. That's a fair amount of productivity.
Can we, you're talking for a bit, can you talk up there?
Yeah,
So
because it's pretty important what you're saying, by the way.
The hybrid meeting has 3 components. The staff component is by far the most expensive and the most strategic to the fire district and also to the city too as well, because the city matches also 2 people or more depending on what's going on. The IT support thing, DNI has opted as a gesture of support to the fire district, who's been very good to us for a long time, to just donate the time. And we do the same for the city too. But the 10 to 20 hours a week we spend supporting meetings, just 10 to 20 hours we're not spending on something else.
Yeah.
We work in 3 counties. We support almost 20 fire departments, 2,000 firefighters. For whatever it's worth, Chief, and I always got your back, but most people are sticking with a hybrid meeting because of the outreach potential, the ability to bring more people into it, and all that that means. But there is a cost, and it is the cost of focusing on a meeting, which has a one-to-one return versus something more strategic that could potentially have one-to-many. At the end of the day, we're very proud to work with the city and the fire department. Our job is just to support whatever decision you make. But there are many ways to calculate costs, and some of them are involved in opportunity costs. And that's really a decision for the people, I think, sitting on that side to make. I hope that makes sense, Councilmember
It does.
Joseph.
Yeah, to me, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is where I'm evolving to it. So we'll have continue our video conferencing through the end of May, right? We have to address that sometime in May again. I would like to see a budget analysis on what's this going to cost to do hybrid. I'd like to see community input on it, because that's, I think, what we're all concerned with here. Folks in the residents in the city, what do they feel about the ability to engage in a conversation with fire district regarding business that we take care of and their safety. So I would like to have that agendized for the May meeting. And I think right now I'm leaning toward just doing in-person until we hear otherwise from the city, meaning the residents of the city, that they want to do hybrid or Zoom.
Also, just as an FYI, is there anyone on Zoom right now?
Yes, we have one.
Oh, okay.
We had 2, but she came in.
Well, we just increased attendance by 100%.
Thanks, Beth.
Well, see, that's the point to me. We're trying to provide a service where people can be informed, engaged in the dialogue about the important things that the fire district does. It certainly matters a lot to them with their personal safety, et cetera. But for lack of interest in that, and, you know, is that the best use of our funds? To be able to bring more people in on Zoom, and we've been doing Zoom, and we had 2 people. It tells me there's not a great lot of, maybe it's a matter of how we do outreach in terms of what's going on with respect to fire district and the community as service and information they need to know. I have no doubt that staff's doing a great job at it, but, you know, doesn't seem to be, the response is telling us lack of interest.
Right, you could put me in charge of traffic in the city,
Okay?
and you'd start having more people come to your meetings.
Yes, you would.
Okay. I'm not asking for that, but I'm just telling you that's, you know, that's, again, I think we all have to be cognizant of the fact that what brings people to council meetings are local community neighborhood issues.
Oh, yes, we hear that a lot.
One of the cool things about the fire department is that we don't create issues for you. In fact, if anything, people think we do a pretty good job even when we burn their houses down. Excuse me.
Oops.
We don't burn their houses down, but if they have a fire in their home and we go there and we suppress that fire, you know, whether or not, you know, we tear up the house or we don't tear up the house, they still think we did a great job, and we walk out and they pat us on the back and
I'm
say thank
looking
you.
at the EMT calls.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what, 80% of the response?
it is over 65% of what we do is
It's
emergency
an awful
medical.
lot when your loved one is having a medical issue.
Yeah,
That needs immediate response.
Yeah, we talk about the fact that people call us when they're having a bad day,
Yeah.
right? But they don't necessarily want to think about the fact that they're gonna have a bad day, and they're generally not gonna come to you and say, what are you gonna do when I have a bad day?
Yeah.
I mean, they might show up here if they had a bad day and we didn't show up, all right? But that being said, I think I think that's part of the issue here. I mean, we have a pretty aggressive public information program right now for a community the size of ours and for a department the size of ours. And thank you to Laura and to Martha. And it's like, I think that's still, as much as we reach out and we can show you that there's public contact going on.
I have no doubt they do a great job, both of them.
This is
Thank you.
it. I mean, if EJ's family wasn't here, you know, Beth's gonna come because she's like our main cheerleader in town. And, but, you know, this is pretty typical. This is frankly, the firefighters in the back of the room is what you will typically get at a board meeting, even when there's a hot topic.
Well, maybe then as a method or a strategy going forward for the next few months is that we go ahead with this kind of a hybrid arrangement for now, recognizing next month we'll get a more specific cost analysis. But we pursue it for a few months and monitor and see. If after 3 or 4 months, no one's on Zoom, you know, I think it's a reasonable decision to say, okay, we're just in person and that's that. That way, we can at least say we explored it.
Right.
I mean, I think if we just decided based on cost alone, we could be subject to the criticism of saying, okay, so you don't care about transparency, you just care about dollars. But I think if we give everybody a chance to see how they want to play out, you know, if Beth continues to come down in person, you know, we've already achieved a 50% solution right there.
Sure.
But that would be my suggestion, we
Well,
just try it for a few
You're
months.
getting to the point I was trying to make, too.
Oh, okay, good, then we're on top, we're there.
So do we have it. How's the rest of the board feel?
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I think asking for a little bit more data is something that's worthy of continuing hybrid until the next month meeting, and then we can make a decision from there. I had no idea this would be such an important issue.
Moving forward, making that a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Chief comes back at the next month with a cost analysis of a hybrid, and that we continue the hybrid at least until we feel comfortable that,
Yeah, before we make that motion,
Yeah.
can we have public comment on this?
well, I can make that motion and then have public comment.
Okay.
Okay. So you come back next month with a cost analysis. We continue a hybrid for the time being. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion second. Public comment on this matter? Anybody want to address the Fire District Board?
First of all, did Jeff have anything that he wanted to say? No? Okay. I just want to say personally, I like being in person, as you know that, but I understand the chief's point of view because really, you guys do such a good job. Why would anybody be here other than, well, that, and I'm part of CERT. So I'm actually, very interested in what goes on in our community. And as part of CERT, I want to see what's going on, and I love our fire department, you know that, and our police department. But I like being here in person, but I understand the expense. Zoom would probably be the best for all of that. Powell texted me and said he would like to be in person, but again, that would be 2, maybe 3. If anybody showed up, I think it would be CERT. So I go along with the lines of what you're saying, Chief.
I just got a text from Paul Helms. She said, I
Right.
vote in person.
Same here, so. And then as a point of clarification, Mr. Ross, do we still need to make a motion on the teleconferencing regardless?
Yes.
Okay.
The proposed
All
resolution.
right, okay, we'll take those separately then.
All right, so,
Anybody online want to comment on this?
uh-oh.
Okay, just,
No.
anybody? Okay, so no one online, okay.
Oh, sorry, yes, he does. One moment, please.
So, although we don't show up on an invoice anyplace, there is the opportunity cost. And if the board approves, I'd like to give you an hourly rate for what the service would be worth if we did bill for it and have that calculate into it. I think the chief has made some compelling points. And while we're working on this, we're not doing any of the other projects the chief has lined up for the fire department. So I think that would be reasonable, even though.
Yeah, I think that's part of what we're
Yeah.
requesting.
I think we
Yeah.
need that information.
So I'll forward that to the chief as just a benchmark per meeting cost, chief. And then we either come here or we'll go to the station and we'll do whatever you want us to do, chief. That's what it boils down to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
And then we've got a public
Yes,
comment.
Justin Hamilton.
Oh,
Hello. This is Justin. I am in the City of American. This is my 3rd year. So I just noticed this, I was in Napa County board Zoom meeting. It's working good. And I'm thinking, that I think what you guys can do is, turn off the picture of me because the Napa County did that as a supervisor board meeting. It went okay. So so if you want to do that, it's make easy.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
okay.
Okay, I think probably in order, we should be taking up the state regulation on continuing, and then address your proposal.
Here's,
What-
Do we want to do the motion on the
This-
floor that's already,
yeah, no,
Well, I'm just wondering if we run into Mr. Ross' direction on it.
there's a motion on the floor
Yeah.
of direction,
Right.
bringing back stuff.
Right, but it seems to be,
That's fine. We can vote on that because that motion's
Yeah.
there.
right.
I just want to mention one other thing. All last year, we've had a couple of ceremonies at the firehouse where you sworn in officers or firefighters into the department. And I always thought that doing that here was something that meant a lot for not only the firefighter who's becoming a firefighter or someone's getting promoted like EJ or getting awarded like EJ just did, but it's something about being in person and doing those type of things. And the fire department seems to have given out a lot of those special awards over the last 18 months. And I just think it takes away when we don't have it in a public setting. And when we do have that, people will invite friends, they will invite other people from the community to be involved. Handshake, a hug, you just can't do that on Zoom. So just wanted to throw that one out there too. That was heavily on my mind when I was thinking about
That's a good
why I
point.
like to do things in person. You know, we got so used to depersonalizing ourselves because of COVID that this might be an opportunity to kind of bring the community together, get the word out. Hey, come out, check out our firefighters, check out, you know, what's going on. So I would still probably be way more to doing things in person, but that's just me, guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah. I think
We get a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph,
yes.
Board Member Oro,
Yes.
Board Member Washington,
Yes.
Chairman Garcia.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the other matter,
So on the second one, let me see, I believe I want to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2022-07, a resolution of the American Canyon Fire Protection District proclaiming a local emergency exists, ratifying the proclamation of a state of emergency by Governor Newsom on March 4th, 2020, and authorizing in-person or remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the American Canyon Fire Protection District for the period May 1, 2022 through May 31st, 2022 pursuant to Brown Act provisions.
I'll second.
motion second. Roll call, please. I'm sorry,
Board-
public comment on this first? Hearing none from the audience?
No.
None online? Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph,
Yes.
Board Member Oro,
Yes.
Board Member Washington,
Yes.
Chairman Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, Board of Directors. Moving on with business item number 5, receive a presentation on Measure L.
So for the last couple of meetings, I think board member Joseph has asked for an update and some additional information with regards to Measure L, which is the quarter-cent sales tax that the county has proposed countywide to address the mitigation and reduction of the threat of wildland fire in Napa County. So what we'd like to do tonight is to provide for the board a short presentation it's a PowerPoint presentation that is being used by the Measure L committee throughout the county right now. And then I'm available, along with Chief Bellier, to answer questions that you might have with respect to the impact of Measure L here in American Canyon. I guess I'm going to look at it up there, right? Okay.
David.
It's fine. We're good. So this is a quarter-cent sales tax for 10 years. Actually, before I get started, let me give you a little bit of background. Napa County, the Napa County Board of Supervisors, and specifically the County of Napa, was under an amazing amount of pressure from the local county folks, both the industry and people who live up valley, to do something about the impact of the threat of wildland fires based on the 2017 and the 2020 fires that occurred here in Napa Valley. Okay, so that happened, and as a result of that, and Chief Bellier can speak to it because of his experience as the county fire chief before he came here. The county was working diligently to try to come up with a way to be able to provide sustainable funding and a program countywide. Are we, okay, they're there. Countywide to address this issue. Initially, when the county put that together, they pretty much did it without the involvement of any of the other municipalities or the American Canyon Fire District or the fire departments throughout the county. it was pretty much a county-centric program that they were proposing. What they realized as that began, that kind of saw the light of day, and they started talking about it outside of the county admin building, was that the only way this was going to pass is if there were the taxpayers countywide were going to support it. And guess what? The majority of the voters are where? They're in the city of Napa and the American Canyon. And so that became an issue early on when this proposal kind of hit the street, and the county pivoted after pressure from, frankly, the fire chiefs group and the cities to come back and sit down and talk about how they could integrate this proposed ordinance into the needs of the communities, the municipalities, and the voters that were going to actually vote for it or not vote for it. And so Mayor Garcia, City Manager Hawley, and I were members of an ad hoc group of local community officials representing the municipalities that met with the county, with the Board of Supervisors, with members of the Board of Supervisors and county fire staff and admin staff, to come up with an ordinance that was palatable to the municipalities and the county. And after about 4 months worth of negotiations, Measure L, as it exists today, became what is now out on the street and being proposed. Originally, the proposal had all the money going to the county, and the county was going to determine how that money was going to be spent. Now, all of the areas within the county, and American Canyon, as an example, or like the Newell open space area, had mitigation measures and fuel reduction measures built into the plan that the county was proposing. But we weren't really, I mean, I was involved in a little bit of that because Chief Bellier contacted me and asked if what was being proposed by the county made sense for us down here. But otherwise, the city wasn't involved in that process. And if I didn't have the relationship I had with him, they would have made a decision about how it worked because that's where they were at that point in time, okay? That's not where it's at today. But what's in front of us is an ordinance that shares that sales tax that's generated, the $10 million that's generated on an annual basis, that shares that money back with the city of St. Helena, the city of Calistoga, the city of Yountville, the city of Napa, and the American Canyon Fire Protection District, because we're a separate entity down here. And when when City Manager Hawley was at the table when we were discussing this with the group, he was really good about saying, look, this money really should go to the fire district because they're who provides fire protection in our community. So, but so that's kind of where we're at right now. And frankly, there's a lot of support for this ordinance and this measure and the sales tax north of us. And as you get further down the valley, there's less support because people don't see it as necessarily directly having an impact on them and their properties, right? So that's my intro to this. So I'm going to back up to the slide that's on the screen, or is on the screen in front of you or up above us. Quarter cent sales tax for 10 years. It's a special tax. It can only be spent on enhanced wildfire programs per an approved expenditure program that's built into the ordinance. And we can answer some of those questions about what that actually looks like here in a minute. Revenues go to the county, cities, and ACFPD, okay? Each one of those groups gets to determine how the money is going to be spent in their individual communities based on the approved expenditure plan, okay? So it means like the city of Napa can't take the money and put it into Blacktop for fixing the potholes that were on the front page of the paper today, Okay, it's got to go into a fire-related type of purpose. Oversight and auditing and transparency is all done through the county. The county's collecting the tax, so they're taking on the responsibility of doing the oversight of it. And that's got some issues with regards to some of the people who are involved with this. They'd like to see it different. Considerable part of the revenue comes from visitors. I think that's a big issue that that Measure L committee wants people to understand, is that it's not all coming out of the pocketbooks of people that live here and shop here. It's going to come out of the visitors also, and I think they're trying to show that they've spread that out over a broader group of folks. And 100% of all the revenue stays in the county. How it impacts us. Sales tax here will go from 7.75 to 8%. The first 5 years, the Fire Protection District would receive 4.72% of the $10 million, which that works out to, we would get $472,000 for the first 5 years. So the first 5 years, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about $23,000 or $230,000 that would come to the fire district that we're not getting today. All revenue would go to our district and be appropriated and approved under the annual budget action of the board of directors. It's not something I get to determine, it's something you all will determine, how that money is going to be spent, and it'll be a part of our budget that we go through, our budget process we go through. Next slide, please. So why is Measure L needed? I mean, for me, I get it, but I think this is about trying to get this across to the people that are going to pay the money through sales tax. We have a critical fire problem in this county with regards to the wildland interface areas. We don't want to go through another 17 or 2020 fire siege. 91% of the voters that were polled in the fall of 2021 agreed that a greater fire prevention program is important to them. The cost for the effective wildfire prevention projects exceeds the limited available government funding. And what that really means is that neither the county nor the municipalities have adequate funding in their current budgets to be able to provide the kind of funding that's needed to make a sustainable program to reduce the risks out there and provide enhanced fire response. We must do this as part of it. We need to take responsibility for our own safety, and I think that's a big part of what what the group is proposing. Wildfires are becoming more frequent and extreme. No one's going to argue that point. And I can tell you, having been in this business almost 50 years, I have never seen the kinds of fires that we're seeing right now in my 50-year career. They're significantly more intense and more destructive than the major wildland fires that I responded to when I was younger, okay? It's crazy what we're dealing with right now. Measure L will bring in steady funding, which is super important to this because this is not a one-shot deal. To be able to go out and reduce the risk of wildland fires in our hills around Napa County, you can go in and you can reduce the standing fuels. You can go in and cut dead trees down. You can do all those kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is, it all grows back eventually. And if you don't keep that in mind, it's like mowing your lawn. It looks really good for a couple of weeks, and then you go back and look at, I got to mow it again next Saturday. So that's kind of what's going on with this, and we've recognized the fact that there needs to be sustained money to be able to support this program. Grant funding is unreliable. It's out there, but it's unreliable. There's a lot of folks who are saying this is not needed in the county, and saying that there's money in the state budget and there's money in FEMA and all these other places. But the fact of the matter is that money is unreliable to local government. It's competitive which we can be competitive. We have been competitive. The FireWise program has gotten money through state grants through the CAL FIRE program, but it's sporadic and it often is inadequate, just based on the experience that we've already had. And then the local match funding makes it more competitive for grant funding. If we actually have these kinds of funds available to us to be able to match with those other grants, we're going to be more competitive and we're going to be able to get more bang for our dollar. So anyway, that's that one. I'm not going to go through this. This is pretty for you folks. I think it's pretty. You don't have to say much about this. The fact of the matter is, we know we have a problem here, and the CWPP, which is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan that Napa FireWise has put together, is clearly supported by science, and the fact that they have an action plan that is frankly now being used as a model for a lot of other counties within the state through the CAL FIRE programs is, I think, says a lot about what we already have here in Napa County that we should support. So what does the fuel reduction projects look like? Their fuel reduction works along existing county roads to make them safer for people to evacuate, shaded fuel breaks around communities, minimizes the loss of homes and lives. I'll just use a case in point. And Jeff, will you remind me of what was the fire that happened in Tahoe before so many years ago? The one. The Angora fire, thank you. So the Angora fire happened in 2007? Okay, thank you. 2007, the Angora fire happened, and it was right as you come down off 50 into the valley floor in Lake Tahoe and South Shore. Burnt several hundred homes in that area there. After that, the community around that area decided to do exactly what's being done here in Napa County. And all I can tell you is that the Caldor fire, when it burnt all the way up Highway 50 and into the valley floor in Tahoe, was stopped and controlled because of what was done in that area around the Y as you come into South Lake Shore or Lake Tahoe. Okay, it's proven that these kinds of projects make a difference. There's the intention with this program is to do strategic fuel breaks throughout the county. One of them would be actually here on the east perimeter of the city in the Newell open space area. They'll provide communications and public education with the community about the importance of doing this kind of work. There'll be enhanced response and support. Again, that's a piece for us here in American Canyon. We don't have the same issues with regards to fuel reduction that they have in Angwin and they have in St. Helena and Calistoga, but we respond to all those fires when they do occur up there. And frankly, we can do more with putting the money that would come from our program into equipment and personnel services that would be able to support our ability to respond. And that would be my recommendation to the board at some point when we actually see money. And then there are planning programs that will help with coordinating jurisdictional response. So, just like with the FEMA and the OES types of operations, some of this money will go towards helping us do a better job just working together as a county with this and not put it all on the county fire department. Next one. This is pretty much kind of backup information. We can go to the next one. Big push right now with regards to this about the environmental health impacts of these fires. There's lots of people all of us actually were impacted, whether or not we knew it or not, by the smoke that we were inhaling during those incidents here in the valley. And then the impact of that when it came down to the ground and landed on the reservoirs that provide us with water. Those kinds of things are all health issues that are associated with this that we need to recognize and build into this, the reason for why we should do this. Next slide. And then there's the economic impacts. And I think this is the part that that maybe the county used initially to show that this was a county-wide program and we all should support it. But the fact of the matter is the financial impacts on our community, both TOT and the fact that people who live here were unemployed during those fires because they couldn't get to their jobs, okay, do have an appreciable impact on our community down here, even though we weren't under the fire siege. Questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I was very much involved with the mayors and fire chiefs throughout the county on the discussion of this. As Chief Cahill pointed out, certainly return to source was a big issue with it. Who gets what percentage of what share. And we were able to negotiate that out successfully. I think a couple of things that really struck a chord with me. Going back to see the October 17 fire, city of Calistoga was evacuated, and our CERT team, Beth Marcus being a part of that at the time, we had the evacuation center here at American Canyon High School. And you get a firsthand interface reaction with people who were affected by that. It's extremely traumatic. And not knowing who was safe or if my house was still there. And that really brought home how important this is to community to be able to be safe fire season. Another piece of that, Torben might be a bit disjointed with it, but it's just fragments of things that really struck with me. It's a Smokey the Bear thing. Forest fires are bad, so we suppress them. And we get this massive load of fuel growing inside it. You know, the philosophy is very different now. I just saw a piece, I think it was on Web, what they're doing in Southern California. They're going back to what nature gave, what the native people gave. They set a lot of fires to improve, I guess, their source of being able to get game. But we used to have something like 80 some odd mature trees per acre. Now there's over 400 trees per acre, and it's this massive fuel load. And that's what this program attempts to do. Another piece of the conversation. Measure L would assure that there's a funding source, because it's coming to fire departments and fire district here in American Canyon to support needs for what the fire district deems essential to maintain level of service. So that was a very good decision for us. That took us a while to get there. And what percentage came to each district, it's different for each district, but it's recognition of our needs in American Canyon are different than, say, for example, Calistoga. You know, three sides are surrounded by it, and that was very evident in the past fires that occurred. The fuel load reduction is by contract service. So that's where the grant money comes in, or the funding you have capacity to do that. I don't know where it is currently updated on it, but in the March meeting that I'm recalling right now, the funds run out on June 30th this year. So then you need to have more money there. So you have an outside contractor, well, you're gonna wait around for the district or the city to come up with the money to continue the contract, or are they gonna go on to the next contract that's available for them? So it's ensuring that you have the workforce there necessary to reduce the fire load. Another one struck home with me the other day on that is, okay, well, and this was another meeting I was watching. Part of the project plan is to, for example, large trees next to the highway, they burn, they fall down, they block the highway, and nobody can evacuate. I think some of that was apparent in the Paradise fire as well. So that work will stop when there's no money, when we run out. So that's why this is essential in terms of public safety. Now, Chief Cahill points it out, we're not face the same risk, danger that Calistoga, Yountville, St. Helena face. But we do have a problem here. The issue is, and you all in the fire service know it, When there's an emergency countywide, everybody's on call. Stand-up time, you get assignment, and we roll to help our neighbors. And they help us when we have a problem. So that's why this benefits the entire county. And I know there's opposition to this, but I really, I urge everybody to view it in terms of what supports our community, our county. And then you think back to the economic impact. Well, okay, I pay a tax, that's an economic impact on me, yes. But when there's a major fire and you can't, all the businesses shut down, that's a major economic impact on the city and the services we provide with the money we receive. So that's my pitch on it. With that, Board Member Joseph.
Yes. Well, Chief, thank you for the presentation. I guess a couple of questions. Number one, should this board consider a motion of, in support or opposition to the measure, would be the first question. And then the second one is, you know, and we may be counting our chickens before they hatch, but what would you recommend that, you know, we do with the monies if we get it? I mean, I have my ideas. You alluded to it as spending that money down here on personnel and equipment, which I think we needed to do with or without Measure L, but I do see, I guess from my perspective, the real advantage, if we had that kind of a reliable funding source, at least for 10 years, it makes the decision we made at the last budget cycle to go ahead and add the extra firefighters to have that, you know, essentially the capacity for 2 stations. Instead of, you know, crossing our fingers and hoping Watson Ranch or something develops to bring in that revenue stream, basically Measure L would be that measure, that would be that revenue stream. And, you know, some of us who get a little worried about the economics would relax and say, okay, good, you're covered. And maybe even think about adding more staff, or maybe more equipment. So I may have answered your question, but go ahead and tell me what a real fire chief would think instead of a person who thinks he's a fire chief. Sorry.
I think that, you know, providing fire protection for the community is not cheap, and we all know that. And the ongoing cost, just like with the, you know, a sustainable provision of fire protection in the community involves having revenue to be able to do that. You get that money either from property tax, or you go out and you surcharge the community businesses and people to pay the extra money. Excuse me. This would be an additional source of revenue for the fire district to help the board make better long-term, certainly for the next 10 years, make decisions about how they would choose to enhance the district's ability to provide fire protection. It would certainly help with that. It's not I mean, you're not going to be able to do it all on the $400,000 or the $700,000 that you get the last couple of years of the ordinances program. But it, you know, certainly will give you more options. Certainly give me more options to be able to make recommendations to you in terms of what we could do to harden our ability to provide fire protection into the future, and take away some of the reliance that we have on the growth that you're anticipating here. But the fact of the matter is, we're going to need all that. We're going to need the growth in the fire district in terms of the tax increment, and we're going to need this kind of infusion of revenue to be able to do what needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Board Member Washington.
Yeah, Chief, just real quick, and this goes on to Mark's question. Would the board's approval or support of Measure L, how far will that go for you? And I like the marketing piece of things. You know, I like to say, okay, if we put faces to this measure where, you know, no one wants another tax. But again, I go back to putting the face of our firefighters in the front of our residents to say, hey, look, you know, these are the ones that are going to benefit from it, you know, versus just, you know, everybody says you get money for this, a new fire engine, a new, you know, more work on the hills and stuff like that. But I think more personally, if they know that it's gonna go for the fact that we're not gonna lose headcount, the fact that we may be able to give increases to our firefighters so they don't have to leave town, go to another district, or another fire, department. I think those things, in front of our citizens and our residents, will go a long way in supporting Measure L, if that's what we're trying to do. We just gotta find out ways of supporting it other than the political way of saying it, you know, that, you know, I know we understand, you know, the political side of it, but our residents are looking at, you know, what's in it for me? And my thing is, if I could put the faces of these guys in front of them and say, hey, look, this is what's in it for you by supporting this, would go a long way. So I'm just trying to think of your strategic plan into getting the buy-in from our residents.
Well, first of all, I think that it certainly would, the board's support of this, coming out and supporting this, like the chairman has done, I think that will go a long ways to not only show the importance of this for the county and American Canyon, but also, frankly, and again, I'm not the elected official here, but like, it also sends a message to the other communities up valley that American Canyon continues to do what's right for the county and not just for American Canyon. Okay, I think that's big. I think that's really big. In terms of how the money would be spent here and how, you know, how we can put a face to it, it's kind of, you know, you're gonna count your chickens before your eggs are hatched. I certainly have ideas about how we would do that. Those ideas are gonna, because of the logistics of this, they have to be focused on the work plan that's in the ordinance. So adding, you know, going out and adding another engine company that's strictly for American Canyon, and we say that up front, is not going to meet the test of the money of this work plan here. So it's got to be associated with the reduction of the threat of wildland, both in our community and the county, I think is how we have to posture that. And I think we can do that. I truly believe that we can propose not only the addition of personnel and equipment resources that will support not only our need for fuel reduction and reducing the threat of wildland in our own community, but also our ability to support the rest of the county's efforts to do that. Should I run for supervisor after I just?
I think you should.
Did I do it? Okay. I mean, that's my my saying what we do without coming out and telling you we're going to hire 6 more firefighters, because I can't tell you we're going to do that right now. Okay, but I can tell you that we're going to look at what first. That money's got to be appropriate here in our community, but it's also, for it to fit into this whole program, it's got to support what's going on countywide too.
Thank you. Okay. Board Member Oro?
Before I begin my comments, can I make a request to open this up for public comment? I'd like to hear the public speak if we have that.
I don't see any reason why not. Why not? Good. Do we have any public comment on this one?
No.
Public comment from those present?
I'm sorry, I just have a quick question. Was I to understand that, I know it's a 25% sales tax, so it goes to 8%. Out of that total revenue, American Canyon gets 4.75% of all that?
$475,000 for the first 5 years. That would be we get 4.7% of whatever's collected. So if they collect $10 million, we get $474,000.
Why do we only get 4.75%?
Thank you for asking that.
Well, I personally think we deserve more.
So the $10 million is what was originally earmarked by the county. And originally, the county was looking to get 80% of, was it 80? I'm looking to Jeff because he was there at the time. It was 80%. So they needed $8 million per year to be able to provide a sustained fuel reduction program that met the CWPP. I mean, that was what they were looking for. And maybe it was less than that, but it was about that. They had to have a sustained amount of money. And it was in that area. It was large. And that was countywide. And so what the committee that Chairman Garcia and I were on with the other city managers and mayors and fire chiefs went back to the county and said, that's not going to work for us. We need to have more money come to the cities to help us with the programs that we're looking to do also. And so there was the negotiations. That number went to 75%, and the 5%. So originally we were going to get, I don't know. Do you remember what it was? Anyway, it was like 2 points.
Piddly, whatever.
Yeah, it was, and again, that was about the fact, the return to source piece of it. It was like, the mayors and the city managers said, the money's coming from our communities. The money needs to come back to our communities, right? So I think that's the part of this. I mean, yeah, is the number that we're getting what we want or we think we deserve? No. But it's better than what we had originally. And we all agreed that that was a place to start from. And it showed that we were all willing to support a countywide program that wasn't just, I mean, here's the deal. If the county was to do this on their own, we wouldn't get anything.
True.
And they have the ability to do that. Now, would it have passed? Probably not.
That's why we had the committee, the mayors, city managers, fire chiefs involved in the discussion. The point being with the county, where's most of the wild fuel reduction have to occur? It's not in cities, it's in the county, which actually, up to the city limit line, in a lot of, particularly North County. So where's the jurisdiction responsible for the fuel load reduction? Well, okay, they're gonna call on local fire departments in American Canyon Fire District to respond to these things. So therein, that was the decision there. Okay, we got a certain amount of money. It was negotiated because some areas don't generate that much, so they got to increment more to return to source so they can actually make something work out of it in terms of responding to the fire. So it's, if you look at where the work has the CWPP, I believe that's Community Wildfire Protection Plan. Where did the fire start? All of them. It's in the county. Burns toward the city. Where do we need to reduce the fuel load? In the county. Where are we going to get a lot of staff to respond? From the cities. It's something that you have to recognize. There's these different areas of importance, yeah, and they converge. And here's a common area here where we can all agree. And that's what we finally got to.
Thank you.
Hope that answers your question. Any other speakers, please?
If I could, Chairman Garcia, my previous job, I was very intimately involved in not only the initial discussions of what has become Measure L, but also the development of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan and the supporting vegetation management plan. It's very important to note that the vegetation management plan, which was derived from the scientific exercise of the CWPP, for the first 5 years of that plan, the estimated expenditures just to do the existing fuel work was about $42 million. And those projects, because it was a county fire department, county fire-wise endeavor. Initially, all those projects are within county's jurisdiction, as you had mentioned, but a lot of them are immediately adjacent to the cities. But because the county fire department didn't have jurisdiction within cities, Firewise does not serve the incorporated cities at this point. We had to focus the work outside of the cities, but immediately adjacent to. Chief Cahill has mentioned the fuel reduction project proposal for the eastern border of American Canyon, predominantly Newell open space and some of the other areas of unincorporated county areas. So the focus was within the county because, as you said, that's where a lot of the fires traditionally start. However, as we've learned over the last several decades, and certainly in the last, I would say, 10 years, fires know no jurisdictions. They may start in one jurisdiction, but they don't have any respect for jurisdictional boundaries. They just continue to burn, right? Such as the Tubbs fire starting outside Calistoga, burning well within the city limits of Santa Rosa. So part of the rationale for the expenditure was we've identified the bulk of the work is within the county. However, through Chief Cahill's work, through the mayor's work, the return to source also is a recognition that individual cities within this county also have their own needs for fuel reduction work or enhanced fire services. So then that is where those percentages were used to come to what we know to today. So while it may seem insignificant of 4.72%, it's actually a significant increase than what was originally proposed. And the important part of it is, while we're confined by what we refer to as the 5 buckets of the expenditure plan within the county ordinance, it gives your individual governing body local control of how that money is spent based on the needs of that specific community versus the broad brush stroke of just the county as a whole. So I hope, Beth, that helps answer some of your question and provides a little bit more clarity on some of the methodology on how things were developed at the early stages and how they've progressed to where they are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Bailey. Another speaker? Anybody else? Okay. Want to hear people online?
No, Chairman.
Okay. So would like to make your comment now? We'll close public comment at this point.
Great, thank you for that. And I do believe I think Mr. Hawley, at least on the city council side, was like, we should get public comment in earlier because it helps inform our thinking and comments. So trying to do a best practice here. Listen, I appreciate the update, the need for this, as well as the threat that's going to be coming all the time. Question for you. Do other jurisdictions tax themselves for fire prevention programs like this?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think that I think our county, based on what it's been through, has seen this. And again, this is not the. I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that this is the CWPP and the people behind that, the science part of this, are the ones that are also pushing on the board of supervisors to do something now. So in answer to your question, I'm not sure if any other. I'm almost positive that in the Lake Tahoe Basin that there was money. That community up there did something to fund that program. I'm not sure if they would tax themselves or the county designated parts of the general fund. Nope, there he goes.
I'm aware of one.
I'm outside of my league. This is the gentleman that should be answering these questions, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Chief. Actually, there are other counties, and Napa County's ballot initiative was actually
Oh, that's right.
modeled after Marin County. Marin County was the first county that I'm aware of in the Bay Area that they took a different route. They went a parcel tax to fund strictly wildland fire mitigation efforts. It was,
North Sonoma.
I think it was 2020, first part of COVID. They put the measure, I think it was Measure C, on the ballot, parcel tax. It successfully passed and now generates roughly $20 million a year. They have then taken that money, they've developed the Marin County Wildfire Protection Agency, I think, and they're using that money strictly for wildland fuel mitigation projects. And they also do have a return to source as well, where the local entities do have the ability to have some local control over that money. So yes, this has happened in the past. When I presented this idea to the Board of Supervisors, it was actually based upon Marin County's model, which had just been successful in the ballots.
But do you know anything about the Tahoe Basin and what they had done over there?
I don't know about Tahoe Basin. I can't speak to that. We can do some research, but I can't give you a definitive answer on
Yeah,
that today.
Mr. Ross, I think you were about to say you knew of another special tax area?
There's a special district, fire district in Sonoma, northern Sonoma Fire District, which used to be Geyserville and then merged, where a lot of the Tubbs fire went through. They took the same language out of the Marin ordinance about the substance of the plan and passed an individual assessment for the same type of study, intensive-based, scientific-based fuel mitigation program, and, did it, very quickly. I don't know, within 150 days to get it on the ballot, and had implementation provisions in the ordinance. So the science is there, the methodology is there, the effort, well, that district particularly was, I don't know, I'm going to say 60% of it was taken out by Tubbs, and then the other fire, Kincaid. So they were motivated to do it, but it's the same scientific basis and then expenditure analysis.
So this seems to be taxing for wildlife funds seems to be a trend on some very traumatic experiences by these local jurisdictions. This is not something new that happened in the early 2000s or the 80s. Obviously, these fires didn't happen then either, but it's a new trend, is what you're saying.
No, and I think it's important, Board Member Oro, I think it's important to remember that for a lot of people in California, prior to the last 5 to 10 years, wildfires were something that happened on TV, something that they saw on the news. They happened in faraway places such as the LA Basin, or large fires that were in remote parts of California, to where now, especially in Napa County, we've had a series of back-to-back traumatic fires. Just in 2020, I think about 60% of the county's land mass was affected by fire. Prior history, we hadn't seen a fire even remotely to that magnitude since the 60s, where a lot of time had passed. The county wasn't nearly as populated. There wasn't as much historical recollection of it, to where now the fires that everyone sees on the news that happens in a faraway place, that's their driveway. That's the road they take to work every day. That is their best friend's house that they used to go to pool parties at in high school. It now became real. I mean, I worked for CAL FIRE for 24 years. I was part of going up and down the state to these major conflagrations, and it was always somewhere else. But when 2017 happened in the county I grew up in, it became really real. And then 2020 happened, or I said 2017, then 2020 happened, and my home was evacuated. My wife and kids got up in the middle of the night to leave. And then when I went to fly the fire several days later, and we couldn't even get around the fire with one tank of fuel in the helicopter, that's when it became really real.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I know that these are real fires, and I actually appreciate the threat and everything like that. I'm just looking at this because this is a tax initiative for the people of the county, and I think, you know, it's very easy to rush to that. But to remind you, this is the most expensive state in the nation, and when do we stop taxing ourselves? The county is really good at asking us to tax ourselves. They came to us a few years back asking about, you know, to fund a jail, put that on a ballot measure and everything, and it got turned down. And then they still found the money. There's money out there, and it's just, do we have to reappropriate these budgets? And when I look at this, I mean, $2 million over 5 years is actually a good chunk of change. But then I look at these hills on the east side, and I'm like, well, how much is it going to cost to actually mitigate all that? It's going to be great money. It's going to be nice little fun for us to have that and put that here, and maybe, you know, do some fire breaks up on Newell, maybe improve some access roads that are going up there. But it's still a lot of money that goes towards that, and it's going to get even more in year 10. And by that time, I would hope that within a decade, probably within the first 5 years, we've done the majority of wildlife fire work. I'm not done yet. Just bite your lip. You know, it'll probably evolve and it'll probably get more expensive. There'll probably be something new there. But, you know, we're asking our citizens to put a 1/4-cent sales tax, a regressive tax, for a lot of people that are going to be shopping here and using that. When on top of the taxes that were here, we have citizens here that are going to be moving in to the Watson Ranch area that are going to be taxed. I'm taxed already on a Melrose and American Canyon Road over there. You know, I'm all for some of these things, but we as a state, as members of this state, have to ask ourselves, you know, what else is going to come up? When can we lower these taxes? There's a fuel tax. There's a vehicle license fee tax that goes into things. It's the most expensive in the nation. I just have a real pause on this, and I think there might be a better way to do it than taxing ourselves. Maybe there's a movement to have the state step up. We're billions of dollars above budget right now. Why can't there be more of that? But it's asking us, these local citizens and municipalities, to bear the burden of a global problem, actually, which is climate change and fire. And I think, you know, the people that are beyond this dais, beyond these city boundaries, need to step up and allocate a little bit more budget to that. I just, you know, even then, I mean, I think, you know, the resources that we have and the majority of the budget that we'll get later on probably be used up valley as well. I think it's going to have a hard, as much as we are impacted by that and everybody doesn't like the smoke and the fire, I think it's going to have a really hard time here in American Canyon, given the number of votes that we have to get to that 2/3 reach, just because people are stretched. And I honestly, I give it pause too, because I think the state is, particularly in this point in time, and probably for the next few years, wealthy enough to help cover some of these wildlife fires. And then if you match that with federal funding too. And putting a 1/4-cent sales tax on us, just, it's tough. It's a tough thing for me to swallow. So.
No, those are all great questions, and those are questions that, quite frankly, I don't have answers to, because those are policy maker level decisions.
Right, and that's why I get to say them, and why to
absolutely
be contrarian to what we're talking about here, because I want it to be clear that I understand the need for this and the importance of this. But a lot of times, and I think a lot of, you know, elected politicians and government officials will always say, tax the citizens for something. There's buckets of money elsewhere in this state, in this county, that they can find this for. And, you know, we'll be taxing ourselves if there's no fire for the next 10 years.
True. The one comment I just wanted to leave with is, with vegetation management projects, a lot of people believe that once you do it once, then you can walk away and you're good. There has to be a maintenance regime, because the vegetation always wants to go back to its natural state. So whether it's a fire break, it's a shaded fuel break, there always has to be continual work to maintain those. So that was part of the idea with the sustainable money versus continuing to use grants, where grants are unpredictable in when you're going to be successful and what interval you're going to get them. But I absolutely appreciate the questions that you have, because those are questions that people need to ask themselves, because this is an important decision that they're going to be making at the ballot box in June. So thank you.
Councilmember Joseph.
And although I appreciate Board Member Oro's concerns, and they're good concerns, and they've been raised by others, and actually, what is it, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that Measure H, a half-cent sales tax for transportation, was put on the ballot to do a lot of things, and primarily to widen Highway 12, Jamison Canyon. The measure didn't pass, and
Passed the second time.
well, it passed the second time, but the interesting part was, even though it failed, the state came up with money for widening Jamison Canyon. So it's been used that, see, there's an example where if you don't tax yourself, the state will bail you out. But some of the background on that was, we were fortunate that actually Supervisor Bill Dodd at the time and Supervisor Jim Spearing from Solano were both on MTC, who both had a fair amount of political juice, and their political skills is primarily the reason why they were able to funnel that money and get Jamison Canyon built. We don't always have that kind of political leverage, because we're a small district in the Bay Area, and so we're just not going to generate the kind of opportunities. But more to the point, part of Measure H included funding that would have financed a parallel road on the east side of town, which is currently known as the Newell Extension. It also would have funded a pedestrian overcrossing on 29. And those were the kinds of elements that we were able to negotiate with the county as we put this measure together. When the measure didn't pass, great, you know, we had some political clout and we got funding for Jamison, and to a lot of people that was the most important piece of the element. To American Canyon, the loss of that measure meant we didn't build Newell Extension 10 years ago. We're now struggling to pull it off now. We didn't get a pedestrian overcrossing on 29. We didn't get a lot of the opportunities that measure would have provided for this community. And so the point I'm trying to make is, yes, if this doesn't pass, the state will come up with some money, or the county, or somehow we'll address it, or suffer, who knows. But it's still going to mean that at this local level, we aren't going to have that kind of revenue stream to provide the enhanced fire services to the rest of the county, but more specifically to provide the funding for staffing and equipment that we need, and that this becomes a funding source to do. So the point I'm trying to make in all of this is, you can look and say, hey, if it doesn't pass, we'll get by, and in some respect we will, but we'll also lose out on some stuff. And we lost out when Measure H didn't pass. I think we might lose out if Measure L doesn't pass. And so I do think it's important to focus on what American Canyon would get if it passes. I think it's important to be part of that county-wide, you know, we're all in it together, just as we did about 25 years ago for Napa City and the flood control and all the downtown renovation, that now it's time to come together for wildfires, but recognize there's a good revenue stream that will help us do the things we need to do here at home.
Appreciate your comment on that. I was represented the city of American Canyon on the Napa Valley Transportation Authority when Measure H was the issue you were talking about. I think its success ultimately was about, like we're trying to, with all our negotiations on Measure L, was to get all the jurisdictions on board with a transportation issue. And what it ultimately settled on, well, what the most important part to everybody was not the east side extension, what became now Newell Extension, or the pedestrian overpass, as much as we wanted it. What was most important was relieving the traffic congestion on 12. There were a lot of head-on collisions. I know 5 people I worked with at App State Hospital were killed on that road. coming to and from Fairfield. So that was the more overriding issue with that. With respect to the issue, the state will bail us out, could happen, could not happen. They got all kinds of priorities in the state legislature as well. This one here says, okay, look, we have the capacity, if we do this, to be able to provide, to some extent, some service we can to mitigate what's the big issue in the county with respect to wildfires. We need to be able to get the fuel load reduced, number one. We need to have equipment to do it. We need to have staffing to do it. You know, I endorse this measure. That's mine. I think ultimately we can either do it as a council or we can do it individually. But I think it's to me, a primary public safety issue for Napa County. And I was very happy to be part of that process and working with all the other jurisdictions to come to this point. With that, Board Member Oro.
Chief, when the fires happened in 2017, 2020, what did it cost the district to support fires up Valley?
I can't give you that number.
Is
I mean,
it,
I can get it for you, but I can't give it to you right
were they strike team reimbursements?
Yes.
Okay. And so it was our personnel backfilling us, but were there we got money back for supporting those fires?
Yes, we were reimbursed for the cost of, that was incurred by the district to respond and to cover behind.
Okay, so you can't give me the exact numbers and I don't need them, but there was no blip in the budget for these things in terms of mitigating wildland fires here in American Canyon? Like, meaning like unexpected expense?
I would be willing to say that there wasn't none of it was anticipated, but certainly the expense associated with it was covered by the reimbursement that we got from the state.
So we continue to tax ourselves if we vote for this measure, and we're adding more expense to the people here when there's funding for it elsewhere. You know, sooner or later, we've got to stop saying just tax just to fill a need for a fund. We have to stop this. This is the state of California, and every solution is to add another tax. Whether it be a vehicle license fee, property sales tax, a gas tax, or whatever it is. I think there's better places to find this money.
Well, we had public comment, and we had the board comment, and this is a presentation, so it's an information piece this evening. So I appreciate the conversation. We're ready to move on to our last item for the evening. Thank you. Okay, we have our American Canyon Fire Protection District 2021 Annual Report. So this is a receive and file.
So what we'd like to do this evening is, first of all, showcase this report that was put together by Martha and Laura with some support from the rest of us, but mostly this was their doing. And I'm so impressed with what they did this year. This is an amazing document, and it really does highlight better than I've ever seen what the district's about and what our people are doing. So I'll turn this over to Laura and let her make the presentation. Oh, yes. Oh, go on. No. It's yours. PIO. So I thought for sure I was going to get that option. Sorry, I didn't do that totally on purpose. So this is I'm not going to read all this. I'm tired of reading off that screen tonight. But you know, this page tells a lot about who we are, where we came from, and what we are today. So probably more than anything. The 2021 highlights are focused on the pandemic.
Sorry to interrupt, but the introductory slide, the first fire station in American Canyon, know where it is? Auto Works.
Oh, down on Dawson?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Found a picture identified it as the fire station.
Awesome. Can we have that picture? I'd like to see it. So anyway, January and February, our folks, specifically firefighter, paramedic Etchison, responded to Watsonville Community Hospital and provided through OES, state OES, provided support to them during their staffing issues. We partnered with Napa County Health to bring first doses in the Tier 1 program with the help of our personnel and later on with our CERT team also. March, we did multiple clinics in the community. Frankly, we provided leadership in the county to do that. We were out in front, American Canyon was, and our fire protection district was in those efforts. Martha and Laura literally went door to door in the mobile home parks to communicate with their residents and to get them into the county program. CERT canvassed along with them. Once we showed that program needed additional help, CERT came in and helped with that. We did English speaking communications. It was an amazing effort on the part of the fire district staff to do that. And then in April, we did second dose program, cooperating with Holy Family Church and also North Bay Health with that program. I can't read that. I'm 68 years old. Community outreach. Laura, you're going to have to do some of this. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Chief. So some of the community outreach, it really kind of started for us in the summer because that's when things started to open back up for us. And we started with CPR at some of the schools, and we were able to participate in the city's Meet Me in the Street events, which was great because we wanted to be back out with the community. And then we do our annual fire extinguisher training at Boreal Stone. And then September 11th, we were very excited to do our 20th commemorative September 11th ceremony, which was pretty groundbreaking here because we were able to invite multiple cultures to celebrate with us. We did Walk and Roll to School today in partnership with the police department and a couple of other events. We really hit it out of the park when it came to Halloween because Marshall decided to come out and play. And we did Toys for Tots, which is a very big success in the community, and toy shopping. And then on December 13th, Captain Prettyman and firefighter paramedic Pilkington went to the school and taught hands-only CPR to over 600 high school students. That was really exciting because we got to go back into the schools and give that opportunity, not only to seniors, but to kids that had missed it in prior years due to COVID.
Am I on the right page?
I didn't print
okay.
the PowerPoint.
Sorry.
There you go.
Apologize. So we do a customer service review on every call that we respond on, and you can see the responses of number that are sent out, the ones that are returned, and the overall average. Again, I've worked in a number of different jurisdictions, and American Canyon's an amazing place. This fire district has done this for a long time, and this is still, it shows the community's appreciation for what we do, and also shows the connection back to the community through this. We ask for them to evaluate us. So anyway, it's good. Calls for service. So 1,868 incidents during 2021. 1,630 were emergency calls, or were lights and siren kinds of responses, I guess the best way to explain that. 238 were non-emergency. Our rescue and emergency services, 63% are the EMS piece of what we do. And that's pretty consistent. I don't think that's changed a whole bunch. It might have even gone down a little bit during COVID because of just people not being as active, but that number is pretty consistent across the board and also consistent in other communities our size. Next one.
You have our response to Vallejo.
Yeah.
What's the reciprocity looks like? They come over and help us out too, I'm assuming.
They do. What's,
They actually come provide aid to us more. I want to say we do about 60 calls a year to them.
Yeah.
They are probably 80 to 90-ish. So we actually get quite a bit of reciprocal service.
Oh, okay, good.
more.
No,
so we have a,
thank you.
so we have a auto, we have an auto aid agreement with them and with county and the city of Napa. And so there's a lot of going back and forth and support. But frankly, we get the direct service we get from Vallejo is significant. When we have a structure fire, we get our first alarm assignment, which essentially out the door, our 2 engines go, and then we get a battalion chief and a ladder truck and an engine from Vallejo.
Okay.
So
Good.
this is the, here's the one that I've been told, and again, this is my first presentation to you in person, but this is the one that I was informed by Martha that the board likes to talk about. So these are very cool maps that are done by our reserve retired fire captain Jamie, who is again another one of those things that it's another example of American Canyon Fire Protection District. He continues to support us, and it's an integral part, frankly, of even of support to the city, because all the addressing that's done in the city and everything is all run through Jamie. And so, anyway, this example here, or this map here, shows the incidents in the industrial area, which essentially is the area north of the residential part of the district. Green Island Road up until the backside of the airport. And it's significant for a couple reasons. One is it's where frankly, it's not where our life hazard is, but it's where our highest value issues are in terms of what's protected out there. The dollar amount of inventory that's in the warehouses and in those areas out here is significantly larger than what's here, even when you add up Walmart and the other commercial areas along 29. And it's also an area where we have a response time issue, right? And which is, I think you all know that, and you've dealt with that in the past. And it's also the area which we've talked about where, if we're going to build another fire station, where we probably should be looking at locating something out in that neck of the woods.
Chief, if I can butt in, I'm probably the person who's the most excited about these maps and charts. It seemed, the industrial areas always had a lower response rate, but 13% I think is exceptionally low. I didn't go and compare, but it seems lower than normal. I thought it was more like in the 40 or 50 range.
I thought it was, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I mean, I can go back and look at last year's and the year before's report.
But, you know, it's still fairly low, and it does, to your point, provide a good argument for why we need to have a second station a little further to the north.
Well, the response time is a big issue. I think the other piece of it is again, the value of what's being protected, frankly. And so,
Is the quality of the roads a factor in your response?
well, traffic is frankly, in all the areas that you're gonna look at in the maps where it shows that we're not meeting our response time figures, it's almost entirely traffic-driven, okay? Time of day, traffic-driven, those kinds of things. Access is a big issue for us. It's gonna get better with the Devlin cut-through, frankly. But it's still, you know, an issue. It's a two-lane road going in there, and it's highly trafficked. And it goes in, and you know, it's only one way in, right? So, but that, it is what it is, and we deal with that. Next
This
slide.
is the northeast.
That's it?
This is northeast, yes.
Northeast? Okay, I'm sorry, thank you. So this is the area north of, are we north of Paoli Loop? Or is this,
No, this is, I think it's mostly north of American Canyon Road and east of 29.
Okay, so that includes the area
Station.
across 29 from us right now.
Vintage
up to-
Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Vintage Ranch and the fire station.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay. Again, we're talking about, I apologize because I am lost in my own book.
I think in the
It's not the word.
printout that we got as part of the packet, the northeast and the northwest quadrants are both in the low 90s, you know, in excess of the response time. So if you're living north of American Canyon and south of, say, you know, Eucalyptus Napa Junction, you know, your fire response time is outstanding. And I'm fortunate enough to live in that area, so I'm happy. But
I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at these maps, but if you have any specific questions, we'll try to answer them, but I'm not gonna try to direct you to the specific
How's the
items.
response time in mobile home units?
It's not as good as we'd like it, but it's not super bad, but it's not, I mean, it's on the edge.
60%.
Yeah, and one of the things, again, as I spoke to you earlier, our master plan program that we're going through is gonna take a deep dive into those kinds of things. We're gonna talk about that and specifically about, you know, fire station placement and where we put companies and things like that. It's gonna be a part of that report that comes out of it. There are areas that are more marginal, and I'd say that area down there is marginal. It's not the worst, but it's marginal.
Okay. Well, it's something to consider in our future fire station.
Yeah, oh, definitely so, definitely so. We will be looking at that.
Oh, that was specific, Chief, to vehicle accidents.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
That's the Highway 29 traffic issues. And actually, Jameson Road, Canyon Road is also, or not Jameson Canyon Road, but American Canyon Road, we get a lot of incidents from Flosden out also to Highway 80. Fire prevention. So, you know, this is extremely important part of our what we do on a day-to-day basis, but frankly, it's not supported by anyone in uniform because we contract for those services, much like the city does for their building inspection and some of their engineering services. We contract. We used to contract with the city of Napa, and that went away right before I came to work for you. Currently, we have a contract with a consulting firm. We have, my experience with the consulting firm is that they do an excellent job. They're very responsive to the development community, which I think is super important. Plan checks come in, plans come in, plan checks are done, review, consultations with developers. Obviously, I'm the responsible party for all that, but that is directed through our contract fire marshal and inspection staff. And right now we have George Apple, who is our contract fire marshal. You might see his name on reports and things like that that come through the city council, through the planning department. And then we have two fire inspectors that work for him that are available to us. And then another component of this part of the business is our fire investigation abilities, and we contract with a private fire investigation firm, which actually is the same investigator that the city of Vallejo uses. So. We are super excited about what our fire training program has done, especially given the fact that we have recruits. We seem to be continually in the recruit business and bringing people through academies and then putting them on as probationary firefighters. So we do a lot of training in this department, just on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that happened in the last, Laura, was it this last fiscal year we started with the IC? Yeah.
Chief.
ICC?
IEC.
Industrial.
Yeah,
Industrial.
Education Council? No.
Emergency Council.
Yes.
Industrial Emergency Council, which is a training consortium that was started down in the South Bay area, the San Mateo County area, and they have connected with community college funding, and we actually get reimbursement for training hours that we do here in American Canyon through their program. Just this last quarter, we received about 7,700.
Yeah, 7,500, and we'll receive that next week.
Right, and and that's we get a check from them every quarter for the hours that we turn in for them the previous quarter. So we're talking. That's an additional, and that's something that Laura worked really hard on bringing on board for us. But that brings in an additional somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 that wasn't coming into the district prior to that. That we were doing the training, we just weren't getting any credit for it financially. Yeah, so a big deal. Thank you. And then here's, you got to talk about this, all right? I'm not going to let you not talk about this.
So we went against the grain in the fire service and traditional. I know Board Member Joseph was here for my presentation at the FDAC. Traditionally, Sparky or Smokey the Bear has been the traditional mascot for the fire service. But the kids nowadays don't know either. One, Smokey has a bad reputation right now. And two, Sparky is a few generations back. They just don't recognize him. So we decided to go with Fire Marshal. So this is Marshall, who most recognize from Paw Patrol. So we're hoping, since he's come on staff and he's just finished his academy, we would like to present that video to you guys soon, that you would pin his badge, hopefully soon, at a district board meeting as the newest member of our staff. And he has made lots of school presentations, and he is an active member of our staff. He's actually made it to the wall as a new member, and he's made his video debut, and we brought it if you guys would like to see it.
Please say yes.
And he's buddies with Lobo, it seems.
They are best friends. You'll see that in his video, by the way.
They were at the Easter egg hunt.
They were.
This video that's being presented to you is again another production from within the department. Firefighter paramedic Robert Rojas is another example of what this department has, the depth of this department. He is an incredibly talented videographer. Put this together. He's done this a number of programs for us, but this one here is his latest. He did our recruitment videos. This is why David needs to be here.
Can you turn to the podium for me, Mark?
It is on podium. Yeah, maybe I should black it out and then.
We're showing the Zoom session. Just a moment.
So we do have to tell you that the rookies have not been super excited about getting to play Marshall. So a lot of the time, the chief will walk in, or Chief Bellier will walk in, and don't tell anybody, but I'm walking around half dressed as Marshall. But that's okay, because the community seems to really love it, and it's really fun. It's fun to bring the life to the kids, especially as we're venturing back out into the community. But he hangs in my office. We're now giving out small Marshalls as trauma bears in case we have a car accident or something like that. And we, at the Easter egg hunt, instead of doing anything with water, being drought conservative, we did an obstacle course with Marshall, and they got to play rescue. So that was kind of fun. We tried to initiate Chief Bellier into wearing the Marshall costume. He wasn't excited about it.
Hey,
It's looking promising.
there we go.
The monitor's back.
Oh, the monitors are working now?
Yeah, the monitors
We're
are working.
working.
I tried.
Hey,
Top one, Mark. Top small one on the back. You're right.
down here in the corner. Yeah, just go around. Yeah.
It's a thin one. There's like 4 of them back there. Go to the top one.
Top one.
That was it.
There you go. Hey, Acer.
Someone's disconnected a cable. Can you just a moment?
The Surface Pro.
Sixers.
Man, I don't even talk to me about it. He upset.
Do you have a phone?
I think Ron told her to bring it.
Charles says you can't close out at home. Not as bad as Jazz last night, though.
No, because it's too bad.
This being our first in person, it's the longest fire district.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Ever.
you know what? This is not working for me. I'm
Got me
sorry.
worried. I'm thinking,
I just gotta find the HTML.
I'm used to long meetings like these.
Oh, no.
We're in charge of how long they run.
chasing championship.
Just remember back in the days when we were debating the redevelopment.
Nope, it's up here now.
We were up there at the rec center till 1 in the morning.
Everything about the bad.
Okay, so here's Marshall's debut, and we were lucky enough that the governor's office took some notice of this, so we're hoping to continue that trend. Sorry, it makes me laugh. again, they're just short little snippets, and we have an amazing media team and firefighter paramedic Rob Rojas who assist us with all of these things. At this point, we weren't really able to get back in the school, so that did allow us to do something for Fire Prevention Week. And we've, sorry, this is another one that, if you guys get the chance to go back and watch our recruitment video, I highly encourage you to do it. When we went to the FDAC conference, we were the only department there, the only district there that had a recruitment video that, there was one other district that it was 22 years old. So we were really making a headway in that, and I was really proud of us. So with that, Chief, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Again, I want to tip my hat to Laura for everything that she's done. Her role as the district's public information officer is something that she's taken on over the course of the last year and a half or so, and she's a rock star. She's done amazing stuff for the district, and is being recognized outside of our area for what she's been doing. She actually got requested to teach at the state's training center down in San Luis Obispo as a part of their program down there. So that to me says a lot about, again, about the types of folks that we have here in the district, and I'm really grateful for her for what she's been doing.
Well, thank you for all your work. It's an outstanding job. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
I apologize for stumbling through that, folks. Anyway, that's the end of that presentation.
Oh, okay. So this is a receive and file?
Yes.
To receive and file?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment about it?
Certainly you can.
I haven't seen the printed version of it, but the online PDF version, probably the best report I've seen style-wise. It looks really cool. It's there's some cool graphics on it. It's laid out really well. It was refreshing. I liked it.
I would
That's
agree.
that all is,
Bellier, right? I know.
no, it's not. It's not at all. And it's not, I have nothing to say about it, obviously.
It was really well presented.
Thank you. It's Laura, this was Martha and Laura's, and they came to us and said,
All right, well,
we
thank
want to
you.
do something different this year. We want to make this more representative of who we are, and this is what we got. And it blew me away, frankly, and I appreciate, David, that you said that, because, you know, I respect your
Well,
take on that.
You two are trendsetters. Everybody's gonna wanna do one next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
I have to note that there is a video embedded, so if you hadn't seen it, it's embedded in that. And there's a QR code as well for for explorers. So,
We're trying to get there.
Good
So, and
job.
I actually think we're doing a pretty good job.
Any public comment on this? Oh, anybody, public wishing to comment?
Come on, Beth. No, it's okay. They want to go home.
I know. What can you say? I mean, these two are great, fantastic, and we've worked with Laura through CERT, and she's done an amazing job with our PIO and doing everything for us. I mean, we're ecstatic to be able to work with the fire department. We're being able to do some training with them. We learned how to roll up hoses. It's cool. and actually, use the hose and squirt it. So it's very exciting, but they're doing a great job, and I just love everything they do. I am their cheerleader. That's all I can say. I just love them.
Very good.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to receive and file. Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph,
Yes.
Board Member Oro,
Yes.
Board Member Washington,
Yes.
Chairman Garcia.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to Fire Chief oral report.
No report this evening.
Well, we had plenty of information sharing this evening. Oh, yeah, about the district, and that's very impressive. Okay, Chairman, board comments, committee reports, future agenda items. Anything for comments, committee reports?
I did Chair. I did attend the Fire District Association of California's conference in Napa, and actually, Laura did an outstanding job, probably made the best presentation of all of the ones that I saw. But in terms of food for thought, the section on the, I guess it's section 201 and emergency response and ambulance contracts really intrigued me. And since I brought it up under the city council, I'll bring it up under fire district. It'd be nice if we could have a report in the next month or two that kind of provides some general background information or some education on it. It's kind of an intriguing issue in which it seems like our guys are making it easier for the ambulance companies to meet their targets, but that ease is at the expense of our department because we're the ones showing up and not getting, perhaps not getting adequately compensated. So it seemed like a very interesting subject matter. I wouldn't want to recommend that we have a whole lot of stuff and add this one to it, so it may be something that doesn't have to be done right away, but if you've got a light agenda, it might be worthwhile to have some general discussion so that everyone on the board is up to speed on it. Just a suggestion.
Good suggestion, we should look into that. Anything from other board members?
No, sir.
I think the only thing I would add, I had the opportunity to, again, check out the progress being made on Devlin Road, and it's coming right along. I caught up with City Manager Jason Hawley. It looks like we're going to be pretty close here, maybe a ribbon cutting sometime mid-May, something like that, I think, if I recall right. But we have a traffic circle.
Yeah.
Right there.
Actually,
They were finishing it up as a lot of the work on that, the streets paved. They're doing some work there with the, around the, I think probably their landscaping areas or something like that. Moving some dirt, so they had traffic control out there earlier in the week when I was there.
Actually, I just went there today and drove around just to see what it looked like, and
Yeah.
it's a whole big area out there. It's
Yes,
pretty
it is.
amazing.
A lot happening. That would be my report. And with that being said, we have concluded our business for the evening. So the American Canyon Fire District Board meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Night.